Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue with this week's theme of taking it slow, looking at tracks that are slowly paced or have low tempos to them, anything that gives the feeling or illusion of slowness. Today we're going to be looking at a track called Cosmic Significance from the artist Spectral Lore. Cosmic significance feels like a massive weight, something that isn't just necessary or unique or interesting within a small scope, but one in the entire cosmos. To be significant in such a vast place that's a really, really big deal. Size, scope, grandeur, those are definitely things to take your time in. I think just based off the title, we're in for a good time here. Let's dive in and see where Spectral Lore is taking us today. Pleasant and quiet little 3/4 here. Yeah. So they're trading off parts of the arpeggiation between the lower synth and the higher bells. There's even more about the timbral difference there too, not just in pitch or instrument type, but the muffledness of the low end versus the bright piercingness of the high end. It's interesting too, the placement of everything. These two main instruments are fairly centered, and it feels rather lonely, rather empty when they're isolated. All of the supporting ideas form in around them. Yeah, like this is small and pensive. very melodic drum work here, keeping a cadence, a pulse, but not really focusing too much on the rhythmic side of things. So we've had this rising and falling going on, increasing intensity and layering, bringing it back down, keeping it small and pensive, building it back up, bringing it down. But I think we're finally going to reach a peak that we'll settle on, or settle near maybe. So we have moved to a much quicker 3, which is what I just conducted, and there I was doing a 4 that 3 sits within. Cool polyrhythm over there on the cymbal. There's a lot of variation in the picking intensity. second guitar part coming in now. A lot of movement, a lot of vibration. So we brought back this lick from the intro. Another minute. Wow. I do believe those final couple of seconds were a heartbeat. And not the typical kind where it's like a bass kick replicating the rhythm of a heartbeat, but it was muffled, as if listening to it from within something, like putting your ear to someone's chest to hear their heartbeat. All right, which one of y'all tricked me into listening to some black metal today? I was so happy with the first 6 minutes of that or so. Granted, it was slow moving, but it was gorgeous. It really was. It took its time. I don't know if it's something I'd come back to. Uh, maybe once more. It does a phenomenal job at crafting atmosphere. And it's gorgeous. It's not necessarily apathetic, but it's also sort of emotionally neutral too. It is a song that just says beauty, like the word beauty, but in musical form, if that makes sense. It isn't saying this is beautiful. It isn't saying that this beauty is good or bad. It just says, behold this. And it's so divorced emotionally from this concept of just gorgeous sounds. It's just presented to your ears. I think that's very cool. The song does not have an opinion on that which it presents. And I can get behind that. Just making something gorgeous for the sake of making something gorgeous, of just knowing you have the artistic chops to produce something on this level and then just doing it. And I don't know, there's something about that that's very pure. It's not here to tell a story. It's just here. Or at least that's my relationship to it. If you have a totally different view on those opening few minutes, let me know. I'd love to hear someone else's perspective on it. But to me, that's what it was. Not distant, not apathetic, but lacking. I don't know. Apathetic is kind of lacking emotion, but apathy is like something else. I don't know. I don't have the word for this. I thought that was pretty cool. And it is an absolutely gorgeous beginning. You have all of the layers between just these two, I'm going to assume synthesizers of some sort. One sounds like a glockenspiel of sorts, but I'm sure that's digital as well. So we got a keyboard maybe and a synthesizer down here. This thing's just warm and muffled and muted, and it's just sound that's kind of sitting over here. Can't really make out too much about it as far as clarity goes. The muffledness and the compression really helped with that, but it has a vibe to it, and it's such a contrast to this brighter, thinner metallic tone. And I just love the way they interact with each other. It is very cool, as if a type of yin and yang, light and dark, the beginning of the universe kind of thing here, where there's only two things and they are the opposites of one another, and there's nothing else anywhere in the vicinity. And so we get to see them not as opposing forces, but simply opposite ideas. And they work well together. One of the first times I really noticed the collaboration was the trading off arpeggiation, rising up four notes of this chord over and over and over. The first two were on the lower instrument, the other two were on the higher instrument. So you don't just have the arpeggiation itself, but you also have all of the fun dynamic qualities within the shifting timbre of bouncing back and forth between these two sounds. I also mentioned that it feels rather sparse. When just these two instruments are present, it's kind of small and personal, very intimate. Every time we have more instrumentation, it surrounds it. It grows around these two tones. I don't know what the entirety of this opening section is supposed to represent. I just know that to me, it is beautiful. I need another word. Ineffable? That's a good one. I know I have another synonym for this and I cannot think about it. I can't think of it. But ineffable, I think, is a really good one to describe this. It is, to me, sort of the tale of these two things persisting through all of time and creation, seeing all of these events in a super compressed time. It's the rising and falling of different atmospheres, things, whatever in this space, but these two are persistent. They don't decay with everything else around them. And that's where we get the cycles on this track. The increase of layers and intensity and emotiveness. There's a lot of things going on in here, from reverence to escalation, never really tension, just things getting more to escalate size. And then, of course, we always back things down, though. We bring it back to just these core instruments. We do have the drums in this segment as well. They start off very melodic, and I really love that. I'm a big fan of melodic drum work. There is a beat to it, but it isn't just a repeated pattern. It feels like it's developing this melody on this drum kit as the song goes on, and dancing alongside these other two lead instruments. Eventually we have a synth tone, gets a little bit of buzz to it, starts being held out, something else kind of crossfades into it, and then we get some riffage, and hey, boy, we got an electric guitar here. This was quite surprising. Almost halfway into this track, we have a timbre change. We've had new instruments pop in before, sure, but not completely erase what was and replacing it with what is now. This guitar, it is escalation. It starts out holding a note fairly thin-ish, but kind of buzzy, getting louder and wider, shifting into more movement rather than just holding a note. Start playing a melody, and eventually ramping up the amount of times that we pick for each note. It's starting out as 1 pick per note, and then 2, and then 4, and now we have 16th note picking with slower movement between pitches. So instead of going ba ba ba, da 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 da, that was not 4 each, but whatever. Trust me, I can count. The idea is that you have this moving pitch, you have this melody, but you're playing each note multiple times before you move on to the next. This is the cornerstone of some extreme metals, but very particularly black metal. Eventually, another guitar comes in, shares this space. They're doing their thing of dyads, each instrument playing 1 note at a time, but always having 2 notes present combined. A dyad is a 2-note chord. Sometimes they move together, sometimes they move apart from one another. And that is also a cornerstone of black metal right there. It was about this time that I thought to myself, well, you got duped again. See how the song ends. And I will be completely fair here while we are on the topic of black metal. This is not bad. The drumming never devolves into blast beats. Devolves is a weird word because we're kind of ramping up into blast beats, but to me they're very simple, very caveman, just make a lot of noise all the time. It's a de-evolution from complexity, even though it does require intense chops to be able to play blast beats for elongated amounts of time. I don't want to diminish the craft, but compositionally it is fairly simple. So I use the word devolve there. Anyways, we don't do that. The drums stay fairly interesting using the entirety of the kit. Lots of cool cymbal stuff in here. We get some polyrhythmic ideas alongside that. It tries to retain as much of its melodic drumming from the intro as it can, but it has sort of shifted over into a more metric style of performance rather than melodic style. Which is fine because we have a lot of melody going on at this point too. And I think this is probably one of the best parts of this section of the track is the dual guitars can, I'm not going to say always, but can be very complementary to one another. Yes, we do have the dyads, and through that we have our harmonic exploration, but they're also playing melodies. Neither one of these instruments are playing chords. And through that, the melodies are interesting. The ways that they change notes at different times creates cool rhythmic structure throughout this, and at one point it becomes increasingly clear that they are doing two melodies at the same time, or counterpoint. Now I'm going to say the counterpoint in that moment, if you remember, I kind of like scrunched up my face a little bit. The counterpoint was messy. The two lines were not very complementary to one another, but it was cool that they went for it. And it is persistent throughout the track and shows up in multiple places, some better than that one. But I will give them credit where credit's due. I dig the counterpoint in most places of this track. And then, of course, we still have some synthesizer stuff going on outside and around this too to fill in the rest of the space. And then we hit minute 10 and we have a 3-minute fade out. I have no comment to make on that. It is what it is. I will tell you that I lost interest in that fairly quickly. But I suppose in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it fits with the epic nature of this track. I just didn't find it compelling to listen to, which ultimately is a subjective take anyways. So if you don't agree with that, that's absolutely cool. It's just my opinion on it. What is this song trying to do then? Honestly, I'm not sure. Cosmic Significance is the name of the track. Do I feel cosmic significance in this? I don't think so. I struggled with this while listening to the track, trying to figure out where the cosmic element was and where the significant element was. It definitely isn't a track that feels larger than life in its emotional value. I think the story I take away from it, I had talked about earlier that I felt that it was these two whatevers, opposing ideas, persisting through all of time, seeing the rise and fall of all these musical ideas, but still being the heart that sits through all of that. That right there is like the textbook definition of cosmic significance. To last so long through multiple eras and eons of cosmic existence. So this is something that I think I understand the title from a narrative perspective. But I never really got the feeling of, well, I never really got a spacey sound out of this track. Not texturally, but certainly not harmonically either. There's nothing in here that really feels vast, expansive, even ominous, scary. The cosmos can be incredibly terrifying just based on sheer scope. It's actually increasingly impossible to even comprehend how big the cosmos are. Humanity, our brains just aren't built for that. The cosmos is basically infinite, and infinite is a term that most of us get without limit. Like, I understand the definition of it, but what really is infinite? It's kind of beyond human thought. I don't get any of that in here. There's nothing regal in here. There's nothing joyous, maybe even reverent. Nothing that feels significant. And like I said, maybe it is just supposed to be the story here of these two things persisting through all of this, even transforming. I have to believe that that one tone crossfading into the electric guitar was supposed to be a transformative moment. When these two ideas that have dominated and existed through all of this for so long finally evolved, changed into another form. Because otherwise, I see zero relevance between the first half and the second half of this track. They might as well be two completely different songs to me. because I infinitely enjoyed one half more than the other. But I also don't hear too much similar between the two. There's a common-esque chordal work, harmonic work. I do feel that the harmonic palette is similar enough between the two that they don't feel disjointed, they don't feel totally distant, but that my emotion to them, and I think the way I interpret the two halves is vastly different. You may have noticed I did not use the word beautiful at all for the guitar-driven section. I have not described it that way once. Even though it is using similar harmonic qualities, I don't really find it to be gorgeous. Some of that may boil down to some of the messiness in the performance, overshadowing any notes being played. I think that could also apply to the distortion, another sonic quality that drives away some of the elements from the composition. Could be something else entirely. I'm not really sure. My gut says I should find that gorgeous. The notes being played are pretty. They're just not presented to my ears in a pretty way. But it doesn't really feel like black metal musically either. It's not dark, it's not angsty, it's not ominous. It's certainly going for a brighter palette overall. And this does line up with the intro's ideas. It just loses something in its textural transformation. And through that, it kind of lost me as an audience member. So I'm kind of curious where all of y'all sit on this. These are going to be my thoughts on Spectral Lore's cosmic significance. What do you get out of this track? Do you have a preference for either half of this song? Do you like them both equally? Do you have a different take on what this song is trying to say or what it means to you? Please put all of that, as well as anything else you'd like to add to the conversation, into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, is a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.